Brandy Terry from the Pine City campus here. I wanted to take a second to invite you to our upcoming ministry fair and tell you why that ministry fair has made such a huge difference in my faith journey. I've been coming to church here for about 15 years, and this is my third time participating in the What on Earth Am I Here For campaign. The first time I participated, I had only been coming to church here for a few months, and I got an invitation to the ministry fair just like you're getting now. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to sign up for anything. There's not going to be any ministry that I want to do or am willing to give up my free time to do. But boy, did God have another plan for me. That first year, I signed up for 2 ministries. And I want to tell you that 15 years later, I am still actively involved in those 2 ministries. And those ministries have helped to grow my faith because I know that God called me to be a part of those ministries. So, I'm inviting you to join us at our ministry fair. Maybe you'll find something that fits your unique shape, your talents, your abilities, your personality. But I'm asking you to come with an open heart and an open mind and a willingness to let God call you to a ministry that He has uniquely carved out for you. See you there.
Hello, PAUMC family. The holidays have arrived at lightning speed this year. As you know, normally this time of year, I would be here to talk to you about Christmas sharing and the process of collecting presents so beautifully wrapped for folks that are in our community that Christmas would be challenging for. This year, things are a little different. COVID is not only impacting the health of our friends and family that we know, but it is impacting our church and the happenings in our community. With the challenges we are facing, with closures and uncertainty if we will be open or closed at any given time, we have decided to approach Christmas sharing differently. It would be devastating to call these families, tell them that we would be providing Christmas for them, and then not be able to due to closures or quarantines, etc. So this year, we will be focusing on blessing the children at Head Start. There are multiple locations in Chemung County. Currently, Head Start has an astounding 311 children in their program, and the numbers are growing due to the public schools going 100% remote in October. Head Start is a federally funded program and promotes school readiness for children ages birth to age 5 in low-income families by enhancing their cognitive, social, and emotional development. The program here in Chemung County currently offers a program for children aged 18 months to 5 years old. We are hoping that as the body of Christ, we will help with some of their personal development as well. Teachers often find that the children are lacking in basic clothing needs: underwear, socks, hats, gloves, scarves, and coats. They used to be able to accept used clothing donations, but now due to COVID, they cannot. Our hope is that as a church, we can pull together to provide a collection of these items for every child in the program. The clothing sizes range from 2T to 5T in toddler size. We were given a donation of socks that has given us a great head start in that department, but we still have many more to go. In addition to the socks, we will be looking for underwear, hats, gloves, scarves, and coats, all in 2T to 5T sizes. Everything needs to be new, and anyone who is interested in crocheting using new yarn, we can gladly accept those donations of hats, gloves, and scarves. We are looking for girl and boy items. The population of the students is nearly split 50-50. I hope that you can find it in your hearts to help donate to this program, to help bless the children of Head Start. And I hope that come next year, we will be back here and celebrating the tradition of our Christmas sharing program where we're blessing whole families again. A donation bin will be set up in the main lobby entrance to drop goods off in. If that door's locked, the bin will be outside and will be checked daily. I look forward to updating you on our collection efforts on Facebook. Collections will be taken from November 21st until December 11th. Don't delay. As soon as we have enough donations for a location, we'll be dropping it off. So early donations are appreciated. I hope that through this crazy COVID time, that you and your family will be able to enjoy the reason for the season and that it will bless not only you, but your families and the families at Head Start. We appreciate you, and we look forward to working in this ministry together. Have a happy holiday.
Hi friends, Brandy Terry from the Pine City campus here. I wanted to take a second to invite you to our upcoming ministry fair and tell you why that ministry fair has made such a huge difference in my faith journey. I've been coming to church here for about 15 years, and this is my third time participating in the What on Earth Am I Here For campaign. The first time I participated, I had only been coming to church here for a few months, and I got an invitation to the ministry fair just like you're getting now. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to sign up for anything. There's not going to be any ministry that I want to do or am willing to give up my free time to do. But boy, did God have another plan for me. That first year, I signed up for 2 ministries. And I want to tell you that 15 years later, I am still actively involved in those 2 ministries. And those ministries have helped to grow my faith, because I know that God called me to be a part of those ministries. So I'm inviting you to join us at our ministry fair. Maybe you'll find something that fits your unique shape, your talents, your abilities, your personality. But I'm asking you to come with an open heart and an open mind and a willingness to let God call you to a ministry that He has uniquely carved out for you. See you there.
Hello, PAUMC family. The holidays have arrived at lightning speed this year. As you know, normally this time of year, I would be here to talk to you about Christmas sharing and the process of collecting presents so beautifully wrapped for folks that are in our community that Christmas would be challenging for. This year, things are a little different. COVID is not only impacting the health of our friends and family that we know, but it is impacting our church and the happenings in our community. With the challenges we are facing, with closures and uncertainty if we will be open or closed at any given time, we have decided to approach Christmas sharing differently. It would be devastating to call these families, tell them that we would be providing Christmas for them, and then not be able to due to closures or quarantine.
Well, hello and welcome to all of you who are joining us for our Fresh Start PAUMC service today. We're so blessed to have you with us, and we're blessed to be able to worship together in spirit from wherever we are right now. This weekend is Consecration Stewardship Weekend here at PAUMC Fresh Start, and we're going to hear a message from Pastor Bill, all the way from Florida, who's going to share a message called Love God, Love People, and we know the rest, serve the world. As he shares with us, he's going to invite us to participate in what's happening here at our church. But before we get to that message, we're going to spend some time in worship through song, a time for us to lift our hearts and our voices to our awesome God who is worthy of our praise. Make it count, build a mark, build a name for yourself. Dream your dreams, chase your heart above all else. Make a name the world remembers. But all an empty world can sell is empty dreams. I got lost in the light when it was up. mercy remains. And should I stumble again, still I'm caught in your grace everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame. Your will above all else, my purpose remains. The art of losing myself in bringing you praise everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame. In my heart, in my soul, I give you control. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out. Your will above all else, my purpose remains. The art of losing myself in bringing you praise everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame. In my heart, in my soul, I give you control. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out. Everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame. And the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out. Lord, my soul cries out. In my heart, in my soul, I give you control. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out. Everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all Should I stumble again, still I'm caught in your grace everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame. All these pieces, broken and scattered, in mercy gathered, mended and whole, empty-handed, but not forsaken. I've been set free. I've been set free. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. You take our failure, you take our weakness, you set your treasure in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see your life in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. Oh Lord, how we thank you. You are so good to us. We thank you for all that you are for us. We thank you that in you the lost are found, in you the dead are raised to life, in you the broken are made whole. Lord, we are here for you right now. Lord, we set this time aside to spend in your presence. We come to lift our hearts, to open our hearts. It is all about you. And let it be true that the cry of our hearts is to bring you praise. You are good and you are worthy. And we just pray, Lord, that you would take our broken lives and put us together in you and help us to share your love and your truth and your light in this world around us. Lord, change us from the inside out as we spend this time with you today. God, we give you thanks and praise. yourself down, raising up the broken tonight. Amen.
Welcome, all of you, to PAUMC Fresh Start Online Worship Service. Thank you for everyone who joins us locally and all those between here and Florida, as well as Mike and Glenda Miller clear down in Honduras, and the folks in the Philippines who watch our services in places and parts of the world that only the Lord knows. Thank you that all of you are part of our church family. We noticed that last week's service was viewed on Facebook more than 394 times. That's amazing. And we checked out YouTube as well, and that was viewed 73 times. So thank you all for being part of our virtual family. I want to remind you that we are having communion today at the end of the service, right after the sermon. And now would be a good time to get your bread and your juice ready for that. Also, a reminder that this is the season for Christmas sharing. We are excited to be working on a plan to bless 311 children who are part of Chemung County Head Start program with winter clothing. So the details for that are in the program, which is found online. And speaking of online, our website at paumconline.org is available for you all. And if you click in the box that says join us for our weekly online worship experience, you will find links to previous sermons along with some brand new Bible lessons for the kids. Also an online portal for giving your tithes and offerings. Plus you'll find this week's program and this week's message outline there as well as a link to the Let's Connect card where you can check the next steps in your faith walk. Also share with us your prayer requests and your praise reports. This is Consecration Weekend, and our message is from Pastor Bill, who is asking your forgiveness that he had to stay in Florida and not be able to join us here in the cold and snowy North Country. Thank you, Bill, for that. Today's message is very important, though. So please locate your estimate of giving card now, which you should have received in the mail this last week. For those of you who didn't receive one, it is available on the website by clicking on Join Us for a weekly online worship experience, and then looking for the button that says Estimate of Giving Card. But before we welcome Pastor Bill as he shares his message with us, let's celebrate with Pastor Nicole as she shares her excitement about this year's response to our 5th annual Hats, Scarves, Coats, and Gloves drive. She did a live Facebook and has been viewed by over 500 people already. So let's welcome Pastor Nicole and Bill now as he brings us this message called Love God, Love People, and you know the rest.
Well, I think it's on. Okay, I'm not a Facebook Live person, and I just honestly want to get on here and show you what happens when a community pulls together. I am like overwhelmed with the generosity of our community. When God says ask and you shall receive, it's amazing. We started the Keep Our Community Warm project about we're on our 5th year, so 4 years ago. And when we first went out and started, we had 4 bags to lay underneath the bridges, a couple of coats to hang out, and hat, gloves, and scarves. And in that 5 years, with people like you, all right, I'm going to try not to cry, but you don't understand how much just your giving will impact someone else's life. And I just am so grateful. So I'm going to try to turn this camera around, and please excuse the chaos, but the coats and your donations are just so overwhelming. So I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm going to show you that we went from 4 bags of just blankets to 34 bags today. Oh, 36 bags there. Say hi, Tori.
Hi.
We've been working hard. 36 bags to go out under our bridges and to reach those that need to be warm. And in each bag, it went from hat, gloves, and scarves to blankets to from blankets to warm socks. It's really important for our homeless to keep their feet warm and change their socks regularly. This is hat, gloves, and scarves. It's just overwhelming. Sweatshirts, coats, and this is just the beginning. This for the women's shelter, our women's and kids that are in need. It's really organized chaos. And then in these boxes, oh, more hats, are all coats and some blankets for the Women's Center. Inside those bags that I was just showing you that go underneath our bridges are personal care items, toothpaste, shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, toothbrushes, things, masks, things to keep their hands warm, those hot pads to keep their feet and hands warm. But this is all you guys. This is all you guys. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope to be able to show you pictures. Keep the donations coming. We do this several times in the wintertime because they're homeless, they hide their stuff and they lose things, or due to weather, they get ruined. So keep the donations coming, and God bless you all for pulling together. It just completely warms my heart that our community can do this. It's amazing what one person can do. You were all one person that worked out to be many, and I am touched by your generosity. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for helping, and God bless you. Bye.
Well, what a blessing it is to be able to speak with my church family back in New York State. This has been quite a ride, hasn't it? I think of so many ways this year 2020 has not come out the way we thought it would. Somebody said, in the context, you hear everything is unprecedented. I heard somebody say, wouldn't it be nice if something for a change was precedented? Well, that's not in our hands, but we know that Christians down through the ages have dealt with God's plan not being their plan. One of the gifts of so many gifts, we want to thank you all for your thoughtful generosity, gifts that came to us from our church as a whole and from many individuals. An individual gift that we were given just before coming to Florida is this beautiful plaque, "It is well with my soul." And Norma knew that was one of our favorite hymns. In fact, Linda and I sang this song in our wedding. Now, I don't recommend that you sing in your own wedding, just saying it. It wasn't pretty. We were awful nervous. But I have this with me to encourage myself and encourage you that it is well with our soul, even though things change, even though there's so much calamity and unpredictable, unprecedented things. God is still on the throne, and God has a plan for all of this. So I'm going to put this behind me. And as I share with you today, remind you that God's presence is with us, that it is well with our soul. This is Thanksgiving week, and as we look forward to Thursday coming and Thanksgiving, I'm reminded of something that Edna put on the church sign at the Pine City campus, "Let our hearts be full of both thanks and giving." And when I asked her about that, she says, well, she kind of stole it in part from Nicole. And so isn't it neat how God raises those messages up? And we're free to not steal, but to share with each other and receive encouragement and inspiration from each other. So my title today is Love God, Love People. What's the rest? Serve the world. And notice that if you're looking at my notes, my outline, Bill Valet, refired coaching pastor. Before I left, I talked about being retired and how retired could be putting new rubber on the wheels of your car, but refired is all the more important. And I discovered that on the 20-minute or so video that Brandy Terry produced for us. I don't think you folks got to see it even, but one of our longtime friends from another state said, "Bill, just remember that you're not retired. You're supposed to be refired." And so I take that to heart as far as my role with you goes. The first song that Sarah led us in today, Only Jesus. And I think back to 2 years ago, this fall, 2018, we learned the song Only Jesus with a trip to Kingdom Bound with our youth group. And then we came back and made that our theme song for 2018. You remember 2020 Vision, Better Together, and how God has blessed us. We were aiming at the year 2020 with a vision for 2020 of everything coming together and many improvements on the church's property, and they have happened, but we did not see other aspects of 2020, did we? So we take what comes our way and we trust that God has got this. So our vision for many years has been love God, love people. What's the rest of it? Serve the world. And I was thinking about, I've had about 7 weeks of pent up sermon ideas, knowing that I was going to be sharing with you this weekend. I have all these different ideas that go through my head. And one of the things that I received from Pastor Nicole, she kind of pressured Pastor Mark and me to buy maybe the first 2 wristbands that she sold. I don't know if you can see here, but it says, "Love God, love people, serve the world" on this wristband. And I've been wearing that faithfully down here. It reminds me of my friends back in New York State and of our ministry there. I'm still part of your ministry, whether you want me or not. I consider myself part of your team. And it struck me, now you're going to love this. One of the blessings of life in Florida is I found a local YMCA with an Olympic-size outdoor pool, and just about every morning except for Sundays, I'm there swimming. And when I go into the pool, I've learned to leave my wallet in the car, and I didn't want to have the chlorine affect my wristband, so I put the wristband around the wallet and leave it underneath the dash of my car. I don't know if you can see this, but I came out to the car a couple days ago, and my wallet's there, and it says, "Love God, love people." Turn it over, serve the world. And that's what we're called to do, isn't it? And even with this Consecration Stewardship Weekend, we're called to invest in the future of the church as we love God, love people, serve the world. So I lift that up to you in these unprecedented times to know that God's got this and that God is in control. I have 3 scripture passages I'd like to refer to today. I'm not going to read all the verses, but the first place I'd like you to look, whether now or at a convenient time sometime when you remember to do it, is 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 1 through 15. And as you read that for yourself, you'll see that the Apostle Paul is addressing kind of a controversy or a drama in the church in Corinth, where some people say that Paul's their guy. He's the apostle. He planted the New Faith. Paul was he was the first church planter, the first New Faith communities founder, if you will. You could say that he established campuses all over the world around him. So people are arguing, well, I follow Paul. And then along came a man named Apollos, and Apollos picked up where Paul left off. And some people said, well, I follow Apollos, he's the best. And others said, well, I follow Peter. And then there was some one-upsmanship where other people would say, well, I follow Jesus, and so I win. Well, Paul is taking them to task rather gently, and he says, he planted, Apollos watered, but God caused the growth. And then 1 Corinthians 3:7, I highlighted there in your notes. Follow along with me as I read. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. And that's so powerful. We know that the growth comes from God. God makes things grow. We are sprouting in our lives from a seed to a sprout to a plant to a fruitful plant because of God's work in our lives. I've been virtually participating in a number of our leadership meetings at church, and it was Charge Conference a little over a week ago where I really felt sad, and I talked to a friend and she says, well, Bill, I think you're homesick. And at first I wanted to be tough and macho. No, I'm not homesick. And then I guess you're right, I am homesick. And then this friend went on to say, well, just realize that there are sprouts at Penn Ave Church that you helped to start, and that they're sprouting all over the place. And she says, I'm one of your little sprouts, And I think of that, and when I went back and looked at that video that Brandy produced, there are a bunch of sprouts that shared their testimonies. And thanks be to God that the sprouts that are growing for Jesus. We're not like we used to be, but we're moving on to great things that God has for us. One of the neat things that has come out of this last year, early in the year 2020, Pastor Abigail, who it turned out didn't come to be with us, met with us a couple times, and she produced this logo that I've asked our tech team to put on the screen right now. And that little logo is like a start button on a computer or an electronic device. But what I really like about it is the sprout growing there. That you see the leaves beginning to form. And our church's fresh start. We have an opportunity for a fresh start to produce sprouts. And that's a cool thing, I think, about this aspect of our new symbol or trademark or logo for our church. Thank you, Abigail. So I talk about 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Now I talk about Exodus chapter 17. And this is a story we don't read about that often that occurred. Exodus 15 is basically when the Passover occurred and the Jewish slaves escape Egypt and Pharaoh chases after them, and they miraculously go through the Red Sea on dry land. And Pharaoh's army is no longer. And now they're in the promised land, or they're in the wilderness on the way to the promised land, and they face opposition from a group of people called the Amalekites. And Moses is their leader. He is their inspiration. But he's an old man. He's up in his 80s at this point. And to just read one verse from Exodus 17, verse 12. When Moses' hands grew tired, Aaron and Hur took a stone and put it under Moses, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side, one on the other, so that Moses' hands remained steady till sunset. Now what's that about? That Moses is their inspiration. He's not in the battle. He's too old to be fighting hand-to-hand combat. But his people are looking to him up on the mountain and receiving their encouragement and their inspiration. And when his hands are raised, that's a sign of his blessing. And we're doing what our leader wants us to do. But he's getting tired, and it's hard to keep your hands up for a long time. So that's when his two right-hand assistants came alongside him, and they found a place for him to sit, and they held his hands up. And it tells us that as long as his hands were up over them in blessing, they won and they prevailed in the battle that day. Now, I lift that up as an example how you need in this transition time to give your full support to Pastors Mark and Nicole. And you need to symbolically, figuratively hold up their hands and let them know that you're with them and that you support them so that they can lead you. And it's a blessing that we have them with us. Amen? Amen. And so I'm so thrilled that you have the leadership of Nicole and Mark. And people are looking to them to be leaders, and I want you to give them your full support. By the way, Mark and Nicole have a great series planned beginning next week. This is Consecration Stewardship. Next week is the first weekend of Advent. Advent means coming. We celebrate afresh the coming of Christ. And they have a great message series to introduce next week. So I'm excited about that. You know, I heard I think it was CNN, some reporter said, well, with COVID, we're not going to have Christmas this year. You know, they've tried to take away Thanksgiving from us. Well, you better not gather too many people together. We're going to come knocking at your door. Now they're saying, well, you can't have Christmas because you can't be together. Well, Christmas is not dependent on COVID, with COVID or not with COVID. It's what happens in the message of Christmas. And so I look forward to Mark and Nicole reminding you of that. So I've talked about 1 Corinthians and Exodus. The third passage that I would lift up to you is brief enough that we're going to read those 4 verses. And familiar words of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, where he says in verse 13, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. So he says, maintain your saltiness, that we need to get our salt out of the salt shaker and into the world. In Jesus' day, salt was used for 2 primary purposes. One was to add flavor or seasoning to food. The other was as a preservative. Now, you guys up in New York, I think that there's another purpose that you use salt for, and that's to put on the roads or the steps so you don't slip in the ice. I don't think they use salt for that down here too much. Just saying, you know, I haven't been here through the dead of winter, but we did have a cold front, you know, this week, and that meant that the highs were going to be in the 70s instead of the 80s. So I'm just razzing you a little bit, saying thanks be to God for refirement. We're enjoying this time down here. But you're called to be salt of the earth, and that's our basic objective, is to represent Jesus' purpose in this world. Now, if you just take salt and you throw it in a big pile, it's not much use. It needs to be spread around. And then he goes on to say, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put the light on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Last week, Nicole and Sarah worked together to revisit one of those children's songs. Nicole's theme was light and how we're called to be the light of Jesus Christ. I love the way the service ended last week, Go Light Your World. And Sarah came up with a kind of a modernized version of This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine. And that's a children's song, but she kind of jazzed it up and made it fun to sing. But you know, there's a little bit of a theological question with that song when it says, this little light of mine. Whose light is it anyway? Is it our light? Or when Jesus says that we are the light of the world, I think he means that we are to be reflectors of his light, that we're to be mirrors that shine into the world. When I got down here, I guess I had to face reality, and I don't know if I can get the light to shine at you or not here, but this old boy goes to the barber, and they find hairs growing around the edges of my face that I never used to have to worry about. You know, do you want us to get the hair in your nostrils? Well, what about your ears, Pastor? Or what about back in here? And so I was trying to do my own good job as I could shaving, and I needed the mirror to help me. Well, we need to be a mirror for Jesus Christ. We're called to reflect the light of Christ to our world. In fact, our memory verse comes from that passage. Would you read that with me? Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And where is that? Matthew 5:16a, the first part of the verse. So we're called to light our world, not with light that we produce, but with the light that God shines from our lives to other people. So those are three scripture passages that I hope you'll reflect on even further than I just was able to lead you in reflection. Now I have a couple stories that I would like to share with you. And the first story is about a king who lived, his reign was roughly from 768 to 814 AD. Charlemagne was the king of the Franks, but then he became an emperor. This is after the Roman Empire, but he became an emperor that unified all of Western and Central Europe. And Charlemagne professed to be a Christian. I'm not sure about that. Who can say for sure? But he wanted his armies to all be baptized in the church. And he had one condition. It was a mandatory baptism. It was involuntary. They didn't get to choose. But when you were baptized, I want you to go under the water in immersion except for your right hand. And you know why that was? Because it was the right hand that held the sword. He still wanted them to be able to kill for the king. But the rest of them he wanted baptized. So I would ask you, when you're giving your life to Christ, are you all in? Are you partially baptized? Are you partially committed? Maybe it's your wallet that you want to hold back out of the water. Well, I can't give the Lord my money and my finances or my resources. Or maybe it's a favorite pastime or a habit or an appetite. Maybe it's your mouth and your language or the way you like to gossip. Maybe it's your eyes and your wish to continue looking at things that you know as a Christian you should not be looking at. Maybe it's your ears and what you listen to or how you encourage others to speak ill of other people. So are you willing to be a growing sprout for Jesus Christ? Are you willing to be all? One of the people on that wonderful video that Brandy prepared said, Pastor Bill, I just want you to know I'm all in. And she went on to say, I am willing to give as much of myself as I can to as much of God as I can understand. And she's sincere. I know her. And so it's such a blessing to see sprouts continue to flourish and grow and produce fruit. A second story, besides the story of King Charlemagne, is a story called Desert Pete. And Desert Pete goes back to the early 1900s, almost 100 years ago, 1932 I think it was. And out in the desert, there was a well over a spring of water. And it was right at a place where you could really get desperate for a drink. And you would come up to this well and notice that there's a note attached to the pump on the well. And it said this, Dear stranger, this pump is all right as of June 1932. I put a new leather washer in it and it should last for quite a few years. But the washer dries out and the pump has to be primed. Under the white rock, I buried a jar of water out of the sun and corked it up. There's just enough water in the jar to prime the pump. But if you take a drink first, there won't be enough. You need to pour about 1/4 of the jar into the pump and let it sit a minute to soak the leather washer. Then pour the rest in fast and pump like crazy. You'll get water. Have faith. I have never known this pump to run dry. When you get all watered up, fill the jar back up, cork it, bury it, and leave everything just the way you found it for the next stranger who passes this way. Pete. So we don't know who this Desert Pete was, but there's a lesson about serving the generation to come. Do we just consume the water and not worry about those people that are thirsty or hungry? Or do we have a view toward how can we serve them? How can we, remember the movie about 20 years ago, Pay It Forward. How can we pay it forward? How can we pray it forward? How can we plant it forward? And that's what we're called to do. That's who we're called to be. Just this week, Pastor Mark got a text from a sprout of ours. This sprout named Becky reached out to Mark and said something very, very encouraging. Becky is a mom and a teacher in one of the school districts around Elmira, and she said this to Mark. Mark, I wanted to let you know I've been listening to each week's sermon and following along in the book, What on Earth Am I Here For? I was at first a little disappointed that I was not able to join a group. I'm not on Facebook and my schedule didn't work out. Must be God knew that I couldn't commit to a group at this time, but I was still able to get a lot out of the reading. I read the book before in 2016 and compared my notes to now. Boy, has a lot changed in my life since then. I definitely got more out of the book this time. So isn't that neat? The sprout is growing, and we don't always see the growth. The growth occurs sometimes under the surface, but it's the root system, and it's Becky growing in her faith. And wasn't it neat to have her reach out to us at this very week? She said, Mike and I are quiet participants, especially with COVID, but I want you to know that each week we do listen to the sermon and follow along. The ministry fair sounds intriguing, as I've never heard of one before. I hope all is well with you. I miss seeing you all in person. Take care. What an encouragement. That the church is both visible and invisible. And when we did the 2020 campaign 2 years ago, we were thinking about the property and the visible aspects of the church. But more important is what's going on behind the scenes, beneath the surface. Becky is one example of that. If you get the prayer request from the church, maybe you remember reading something that a lady named Nancy wrote a couple of weeks ago. She put this on as a praise report, prayer request, and she said this: most of you know that I have not attended church in quite some time. It isn't because I do not believe in God, it's because I strayed away from Him. This Sunday, this was just a couple of weeks ago, I had this overpowering feeling to attend the online service, and the message seemed like it was meant just for me. Only God can lead us back to Him. I am glad I am on the right path to do so. I asked for prayers for Charlie's family and friends. Charlie Bertani had just passed the week before. I asked for prayers for myself to not feel so lost and to come back to God. I asked for prayers for my family and friends. Thank you all for all that you do, Nancy. Isn't that powerful? So whether it's Becky, who's like in her mid-30s, or Nancy, who's a little bit younger than your refired coaching pastor, thanks be to God that God is moving, sometimes visibly, sometimes invisibly. So that question, are you willing to give as much of yourself as you can to as much of God as you can understand, applies to your heart and your soul and your mind, and oh yes, your finances as well. So when setbacks occur, that causes us to just dig deeper into what God would have us to do. We have enjoyed, since we've been here in Florida for the last few weeks, listening to their version of Family Life Radio. It's called Joy FM. And I heard them say something that really struck me, that they did a study of the people that listened to this Christian music on their radio station, and that of all the people that listened, 6% actually ever give anything to support the ministry. When I heard that, I wondered, what about PAUMC, Fresh Start? what percentage of our people that benefit from the sprouts that are growing actually give back to the Lord. I would like to challenge you this day, these weeks to come, and going into next year, to give your best gift to God, both now when you respond and to commit over the next year that I'm going to give consistently and regularly. And it's not the amount, but it's the commitment. I shared with you this wristband, and I found out that besides the 2 that Nicole sold to Mark and me, she's got a couple hundred more. And I would like to offer you one of these Love God, Love People, Serve the World wristbands to everybody that responds, to everybody that fills out estimate of giving card, who gives a gift. We'll mail you one of these, or if you'd like to stop by, we could hand it to you at the door. But that's what we're called to do, is to put our investment of our finances where our faith is. Not to just be like the person that would find that well in the desert and just consume the water, but to consume the water and then pay it forward. Plant it forward for those not yet part of the family. Pastor Mark mentioned this day that you may have received one of these commitment estimate of giving cards, and if you did, would you take that out right now? If you don't have a physical card in your hand, Mark shared with you the way you can go online and find the card. You could even fill it out with your electronic device, your phone or your laptop, or however you choose to do that. But if you do have a card, would you look at it with me right now, and just to read the top of it. In response to God's love, and as an expression of my faith in and commitment to Christ and His church, I plan to take a step up in my giving. And then it's very helpful for us, for you to indicate whether you're planning to give weekly or monthly, and most especially to give the amount and whether that's meant to be weekly or monthly, so that our financial secretary can carefully understand what you intend. This is a way that we can move forward. We really appreciate the people, the invisible people that say, I want to be visible in my support of PAUMC, One Church, Many Locations, and I want to step up to tithing, or to move toward tithing, or for some of us to even go beyond tithing. Linda and I plan to fill a card out, and maybe Linda will want the other wristband that comes from that, so she and I can be twins. But I really want you to pray about this, and Sarah is going to just play the chorus of that song that has meant much to us over the years, Find Us Faithful. May all who come behind us find us faithful. May they see in our lives footsteps that they want to follow, that we can invest not only in our own lives, but in the lives of the invisible people that are worshiping with us, and in the lives of those who we hope to touch in the days, weeks, and years to come. Let us pray. Father God, I thank you that you're not finished with us, that you have a great plan for our church, and we want to be part of that plan. I ask that you speak to the people and that you help them to respond in faithfulness and obedience. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, amen to that, Bill. What a moving message. All that pent-up desire over 7 weeks has produced a message that is touching us deeply. Thank you so much. Pastor Bill also wanted me to remind you that if you want one of these wristbands that says Love God, Love People, Serve the World, to write wristband on your estimate of giving card, and that way we'll know you're looking for one in the mail. We come now to our time of communion. If you have your elements ready, now's the time. We invite you to join us at this table. This is a table of consecration. This is a table of thanksgiving. This is a table of blessing. For God has given us much, more than we can even imagine. Jesus gave the ultimate gift to us, his life, so that we might be forgiven of our sins and spend our lives with God. I love that thought of consecrating ourselves to the future, the unknown future, even in the midst of this COVID pandemic. In response to God's love as an expression of my faith in and commitment to Christ and his church. I remember a few years back when we did the challenge, All In. Are you all in? And when we came to receive communion, we were encouraged to say to the communion stewards here, I'm all in. And I can remember we did that for quite a few months, for a long time. One of the thoughts Bill had was, when you see another person wearing a wristband, that means you're all in. So you're encouraged to join us today in communion, to participate with us in an open communion. And this means that you don't have to be a member of the United Methodist Church or of this church to partake of the bread and grape juice. Communion is a means of grace by which many people experience the grace and presence of Jesus Christ. So if your heart is sincere and you wish to be forgiven of your sins and resolved to live a new life, for the purpose of and in the power of Jesus Christ, we encourage you to participate in communion. The bread symbolizes Jesus' body given on the cross, and the cup, his blood. Paul wrote that on the night in which Jesus gave himself up for us, that he took bread, he gave thanks. He broke the bread and said, take, eat. This is my body, which is given for you. And when the supper was over, he took the cup, gave thanks, gave it to his disciples, and said, drink from this, all of you. This is my blood of the new covenant, poured out for you and for many, for the forgiveness of your sins. Do this as often as you drink it, and remember me. And so in remembrance of these, your mighty acts in Jesus Christ, we offer ourselves in praise and thanksgiving as a holy and living sacrifice in union with Christ's offering for us as we proclaim the mystery of faith that Christ has died, Christ is risen, and Christ will come again. I invite you now to receive communion.
May all who come behind us find us faithful. May the fire of our devotion light their way. May the footprints that we leave lead them to believe, and the lives we live inspire them to obey. Behind That is our hope and prayer, that those who come behind us will find us faithful, faithful to live our lives, loving God, loving people, and serving the world around us. And as we wrap up our service today, we want to remind all of you that we are so blessed that you've joined us. We're blessed to worship with you each week. We're blessed to all be part of the same family of God. And our last song today is a song that fits right in with Pastor Bill's message. It fits right in with our vision to love God, love people, and serve the world. It's a new one for us this week, but the title of it even is Love God and Love People. It reminds us to get back to the basics, to keep the main thing, to love God first, to love people. And as we do that, out of that love, we will be led to serve the world around us. So let's celebrate that as we wrap up today. Circles, jumping the hurdles, getting caught in that rush of doing so much, feeling kind of worn out. All this checking the boxes, trying to be flawless, has me spinning in my head, catching my breath, too afraid to slow down. I tell myself to keep this up, that God wants more than just my love, but I've been complicating things. Just like me, to overthink. I gotta keep it real simple, bring everything right back to ground zero. 'Cause it all comes down to this: love God and love people. Living in a world that keeps breaking, but if we wanna find a way to change it, it all comes down to this: love God and love people. Oh, this is freedom, the keys to the kingdom. Life can be found and love can be loud. 'Cause love is what it's all about. I tell myself to keep this up, that all God wants is just my love. No more complicating things, no more need to overthink. Gotta keep it real simple, bring everything right back to ground zero. 'Cause it all comes down to this: love God and love people. We're living in a world that keeps breaking, but if we want to find a way to change it, it all comes down to this: love God and love people. Love is patient, love is kind, rescues hearts and changes lives. Love is all we need to make things right. Gotta keep it real simple. It's really so simple. Gotta keep it real simple, bring everything right back to ground zero. 'Cause it all comes down to this: love God and love people. Living in a world that keeps breaking, but if we wanna find a way to change it, it all comes down to this: love God and love people. Gotta keep it real simple, bring everything right back to ground zero. 'Cause it all comes down to this: love God and love people. Living in a world that keeps breaking, but if we wanna find a way to change it, it all comes down to this: love God and love people. It all comes down to this: love God and love people. It all comes down to this: love God and love people. It all comes down to this: love God and love people. Amen. God bless you all and have a blessed, safe, and a happy Thanksgiving.